That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, this is going to be a tough video because I have built so many of my dynasty teams, hammering in the elite quarterbacks, the elite wide receivers, centered them around one top-end running back, and from there, I'm desperate. I need depth at the running back position. And usually we'll go through, we'll take some shots on some guys later on in rookie drafts. This year, I'm worried. This year, I don't think we are going to be able to go through and take those shots. Because as I look through this class, as I research for our Dynasty research book, I am convinced, besides Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, trust me, I get it. Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, they're fantastic running backs. Breece Hall is probably a top 5 running back in terms of his overall prospect profile over the past 10 years. Now, I am worried beyond that we are not going to have a single running back. And yes, you're hearing me correctly. I am worried we are not going to have a single running back of significance past those top 2 options. I'm going to be excited to talk about why. And I will say, we should have seen these massive alarms going off. We should have seen the red flashing lights telling us, stay away, don't plan on taking these guys. If we just leave Sleeper, because we know Sleeper has horrible ADP. I think it's because there are so many mock drafts that are going. Maybe it's because their algorithm, I don't know, but Sleeper has horrible ADP where, yeah, you'll see Kyron Williams going in the 8th round on a Sleeper draft. But if we go over and check out some real money fantasy football drafts on Underdog Fantasy, you can tell that these players just simply have no value. Isaiah Spiller falling to running back 40. I mean, you have Rashad White running back 43. Brian Robinson running back 50. That's behind Kenneth Gainwell, behind Marlon Mack. Zamir White, James Cook, behind J.D. McKissick in these drafts. You can tell that drafters that know what they're doing on Underdog Fantasy have already kind of said, you know what? We're off this class. I am not drafting a single one of these rookie running backs. If you want to be one of those smart drafters, if you want to actually have some fun in your life, make sure you go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK. Get into some drafts with us on the live streams, friends, public lobbies, whatever you want to do. But when you use promo code FLOCK, they'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. You'll get our Dynasty rankings. You'll get our Dynasty rookie rankings, and you'll get our Dynasty research book. Please take advantage of that link in the description. But I think that should be a good little preview on the first alarm going off with this class. And what I want to do is I want to go running back by running back and try to tell you the red flags, the other little metrics that should signal those alarms, that should tell you stay away, steer clear. And we're going to start with someone that I get it. Trust me, I had him at the top of the class at the very beginning of the offseason, right next to Breece Hall, Isaiah Spiller. Now, we talked about Isaiah Spiller at length. I don't want to spend too much time on him because I know people are tired of it. And if you're telling me, oh, Mason, turn on the game film, or turn on the film, you bum, you nerd, why are we talking metrics here? If you think his film is that good, let's see where he goes in the NFL draft. Do you think his film's that good? Tell me why in real money fantasy leagues, people aren't valuing him right now. Because I pull this up and there are 2 things that signal that we just simply shouldn't be valuing Isaiah Spiller. That's going to be his BMI and his 40-yard dash time. Now, I know a lot of people aren't going to believe me that these things matter. And trust me, I'm there with you. A lot of these metrics, like BMI, like 40-yard dash, for different positions, they don't matter at all. Wide receiver, who the hell cares? I mean, quarterback, who the hell cares? Those aren't things that you would ever to think about discussing. But at running back, it freaking matters. And here, Isaiah Spiller has a BMI of 29.4. He ran a 40-yard dash at his pro day. We know those times are usually faster. Of a 4.64, which explains why he skipped the combine. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to have a realistic understanding of other running backs that he looks like. And we're going to be doing this for all these guys in this class. So I wanted to combine these 2 red flags. And I know a lot of people are going to be in the comment section saying, Mason, you're being fair. Isaiah Spiller wasn't feeling well that day. That's why he ran a little bit slower. Mason, you're not being fair. Isaiah Spiller, maybe he didn't eat breakfast this morning. So I'm going to move the thresholds. I'm going to actually bump his BMI up to 30. That's a decent jump. That's like him gaining, 10 pounds. And I'm also going to say, you know what? He didn't run a 4.64. He ran a 4.55. He gained almost a tenth of a second, and we're going to act like it was at the combine, not his pro day. Okay, so we're making Isaiah Spiller just way more appealing with both these metrics. And if we look at the running backs that were drafted from 2014 to 2020, and we look at every running back that was drafted in Dynasty leagues that had a BMI less than 30, that ran slower than a 4.55. Here is the list. Kerryon Johnson. Oh, Kerryon Johnson. Hey, he had some upside. I will say that. I maybe liked him back in Detroit a while ago. Then a bunch of bums. You got Dexter Williams, Jordan Wilkins, Jamal Williams, Wayne Gallman, Storm Johnson, TJ Yeldon, Matt Jones. And of course, some of these players had NFL careers. You have Jamal Williams still in Detroit. You had TJ Yeldon, playing through his rookie contract in Jacksonville. And a couple of these guys got the draft capital. Kerryon Johnson selected in the second round. TJ Yeldon selected in the second round as well. But there's a big but here. Are we trying to draft players that are going to be able to stick around as part-time committee running backs in the NFL? Or are we trying to draft players so we can say, oh, yeah, he had a role in his offense, right? We get points for him being on a roster. No, you don't get points for someone being on a roster. You get points for them going out there, racking up yards, scoring touchdowns, catching balls out of the backfield. None of those running backs did that on that list. Now, of course, there can always be a first. But what is the realistic probability? Are we sure we should be taking Isaiah Spiller over a wide receiver that's going to be drafted round one? A long time ago, right after his pro day, we moved Chris Olave, moved Jameson Williams over Isaiah Spiller. Isaiah Spiller looks like he's going to be a bust. We've talked about it enough. I will move on. If you have an argument against this, please let me know in the comment section. But we are more than fair in changing those marks. If you've checked out our Dynasty Research book, if you checked out our Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide, you will know exactly how much this matters for the running back position, as we've already covered in depth and as I've spent God knows how much time researching. But let's go to our next running back, someone that I will admit, he has upside. But what I do not understand, I don't understand what is happening with the Rashad White projection for his draft capital right now, because he went from a running back that looked like he would potentially get drafted at the beginning of the third round to where now almost nobody is expecting Rashad White to go on day 2. It's almost consensus. If you pull up grinding the mocks right now, Rashad White has an ADP across God knows how many mock drafts. We can look at this. Over 100 NFL mock drafts. Rashad White is projected to go about pick 117. So that's about in the middle of the 4th round to the back half of the 4th round, which if we're talking about the historical hit rate for those players, it's not nice. I'll tell you that now. Of course, you have guys like Ronald Jones. You have James Robinson popping up from day 3. But the thing with those running backs, they check damn near every single box. Those running backs, they were big running backs that could one day step up and get a 3-down role. What we're seeing with Rashad White is if he falls to day 3, if he falls outside the top 100 picks, instead of looking like that elite pass-catching running back, instead, he looks like a running back that will have a small role in his offense that won't really translate to fantasy production. Because if you go on day 3, you need to have the size. You need to have the size. At least be Alexander Madison, or if someone goes down in front of you, you can handle a 3-down workload. Where if we combine these two things, a BMI less than 29.5 and a running back going outside the top 100 draft picks, here are the options from 2014 to 2020. The reason we're not using 2021 is because we don't have the 3rd year with their Dynasty ADP to classify them as a hit or a miss. So next year, I'll be happy to add that class in. But we have well over 100 running backs in this sample. I think it's safe to say it's a pretty good sample size. You have Tyler Irving, Jeremy Langford, Justice Hill, Jordan Wilkins, Jamal Williams, Wayne Gallman, Josh Ferguson, Joe Williams, Kalen Ballage, Bryce Love, and Ito Smith. What is interesting with these running backs, all of them were undrafted players in Dynasty Fantasy Football startup drafts 2 years after they were drafted in the NFL draft. After their 2nd season in the NFL, they were undrafted in Dynasty leagues. Rashad White, he has something beautiful on that resume. in that receiving upside. But you can't fall to day 3 if you're going to be that small. If you're going to be that small, for the love of God, have a team recognize that talent. Have a team planning on getting you in a role, and that means being selected in the top 100 draft picks historically. And now our next running back is going to be James Cook, where I know a lot of film people, they really like James Cook. Of course, from a production standpoint, we can't come out here and say, oh no, James Cook, not interesting at all, because, I mean, clearly he split the backfield at Georgia. But if you look at our running back process, where we have beat NFL draft capital, where we have beat Dynasty ADP since 2014, all laid out in our Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide, we don't use production measures at the running back position in particular. Because, I mean, you have teams like Alabama, like Georgia, that have so many talented running backs on the same roster, where you're going to miss out on the next DeAndre Swift if you're trying to figure out those production metrics at running back when it's just up to a coaching staff to give that ball to him. But what makes James Cook stand out in this class is his size. James Cook has a BMI of 27.8. I don't know if you realize how small that is, how thin his frame is. So I'm not saying James Cook can't handle a 3-down workload in the NFL because he didn't in college, because he was playing next to Amir White. What are you expecting from the man? But when you don't weigh 200 pounds, and your BMI is 27.8, you are going to have no chance at all to handle 25 plus touches or 20 plus touches against 300-pound linemen in the NFL. Like, that's not happening. If we look since 2014, 2 running backs that have been drafted in Dynasty rookie drafts that had a BMI less than 28. These options, Kenyon Drake and Tyler Irving. I will say Kenyon Drake's kind of funny because with Kenyon Drake, went to Alabama, was parked behind guys like Derrick Henry. I mean, obviously that team just had so much damn talent. So he was in a committee in college. He gets to the NFL. And I will say, if James Cook turned into Kenyon Drake, oh my God, that's a massive hit. If you get James Cook in the 3rd round, he turns into Kenyon Drake, you get half a season of running back 1 production. You make that bet. You take that pick every single time. But can we say that's likely? Can we say if his ceiling is to give us half a season of production and we're looking for that, and it's not even like it, can we say that he's a player we should be drafting? I don't think so. What's going to be interesting is James Cook will probably get the draft capital. I'd imagine he goes inside the top 100 draft picks. It's just so damn hard to see the ceiling. I mean, I could see him turn into Devin Singletary. That's possible. But if his floor is just rock bottom, non-existent, I don't really get it. I mean, let's go back over to Underdog Fantasy, where people that are drafting with real money on the line, where people are out there in the streets that are all over 18 years old as well. James Cook's the running back 54, right ahead of Kenyon Drake, Chris Carson, Jamal Williams, Trey Sermon. I think the people with the money on the line also are onto something with James Cook here. Now let's go to our next running back in Tyler Algiere. I probably said the name wrong. You know I'm an idiot. But here we have a couple different things happening. A, it's a running back that's probably going to fall outside the top 100 picks. B, he stayed at BYU pretty damn long. He stayed there all 4 years. And C, he ran a 4.60 40-yard dash. And I will say, like, you can always find an example. You can point out a running back that went on day 3 of the NFL draft. You can always pull up an Aaron Jones. You can always go pull up a Phillip Lindsay, a James Robinson and Austin Eckler. You can have one massive red flag on the profile, but if you check every other box, hell, you're still a good player. But when we start to see these red flags pop up and the red flags outweigh the positives on a profile, that's when we need to be concerned. Because here, if we combine those 3 things, day 3 draft pick, ran a 4.60 or slower, and we're not even going to combine the fact that he stayed an extra year in college because, obviously he has his own reasons. But if we look at this list, day 3 pick ran a 4.60 or slower. Storm Johnson, Darwin Thompson, Jonathan Williams, Wayne Gallman, David Cobb, Mike Davis, Kadeem Carey, LaMichael Pirine, and Samaje Pirine. You know how many of those running backs were being drafted in dynasty startups 2 years after they were drafted in the NFL draft after their second season. A whopping 0. Now, I lied to you. There is one other guy. And I don't want to bring him up because he is the outlier of all outliers. There was James Conner. Now, with James Conner, he wasn't a day 3 pick. He went round 3, but I believe we have him classified here because he was a compensatory pick, went outside the top 100 picks overall. I believe it was like pick 105. But with James Conner, the man had cancer. Now, if we are ever going to ignore the model, if we are ever going to ignore the statistics and what they tell us, that's probably a pretty good reason. Cancer's probably serious enough to say, yeah, you know what? If James Conner didn't have to recover from this, if teams weren't concerned about his longevity, probably would have ran faster than a 4.60 and probably would not have made it outside the top 100 draft picks. So James Conner is a player that, yes, best case scenario he can turn into. But in reality, no, Conner does not belong on this list. He had cancer. Okay, let's move on to our next guy. Let's move on to Amir White. And like I said, we are continuously raising the bar for these players. We're acting like, you know what? They had a bad day at their pro day. They had a bad day at their NFL combine. They're bigger than we thought. And they also have reasons where maybe they're a better pass catcher than advertised. I mean, Amir White here is our next player. And with Amir White, he had a BMI of 29.0. Now, I'm going to say, hell, Amir White, go chug a couple gallons of water somehow if your body can handle that. Then step back on the scale. We'll get you up to a 30.0 BMI. We'll make you a little bit bigger. And also, Amir White had less than 3% of his team's college target share. On a per game basis, less than 3% of the targets went in the direction of Amir White. Now, like I said, we're giving the man the benefit of the doubt. We're going to say, hell, James Cook was there. James Cook is a great pass catching running back, which we don't know if it's true. Probably not true, but let's just assume it is. Let's just say, hell, James Cook's a great pass catching running back. Not fair to say that Amir White should have been at 2.9% of his team's college target share. We're going to more than double this. We're going to bring it up to 7%. Okay, I think that's a fair mark to account for James Cook being there. If we look at those two measures, you have one running back that stands out. He still had value after 2 years. Now, how much value? Not really much at all. You had Ronald Jones. Yes, I could actually see the comparison. You have a first and second down running back that's a little bit slider, but he does have the speed. Film grinders really loved Rojo back in 2018. I mean, some people that love to watch film really like Amir White this year as well. I could see the comparisons, but I think that's almost the ceiling. What's the more likely outcome? Let's look at the other guys. Justice Hill. Oh, I love that call. I love that call with Justice Hill. Jordan Wilkins, Jeremy Langford, Wayne Gallman, Joe Williams, Dexter Williams. A bunch of other guys not drafted after their second season in the NFL. Now, going over Jerome Ford, a player that you can kind of talk yourself into. Transferred over to Cincinnati because he was on an Alabama roster that had Najee Harris, Josh Jacobs, Brian Robinson. What were you expecting the man to do? Damian Harris at one point as well. But same thing. He is a BMI under 29.5. He had less than 7% of his team's college target share. And go right back to what we saw with Amir White. What stands out? A bunch of running backs that completely washed out of the NFL. Yeah, they're going to be on the bottom end of the depth chart. Maybe they're on a practice squad, but they're not players you are ever putting into your starting lineup from a fantasy football perspective. Now let's go to someone that I never really liked. Maybe because I didn't dive deep enough in the class at the beginning of the offseason until we got to the combine. But I know he was a massive faller after the combine. This was Kyron Williams. With Kyron Williams, it doesn't get worse than this. It legitimately, in terms of a running back prospect, from what the film people say and what the metrics people say, there's not a larger gap. With Kyron Williams, this is someone that was projected to go, in the third round almost consistently. Pretty much every mock draft you would have seen before the combine. But since then, Kyron Williams almost has no chance to be selected in the top 100 draft picks. Almost no chance at all. Kyron Williams also has a BMI of 28.6. That's very, 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 very small. with Kyron Williams. The one positive on this profile, I will give him this. He almost had 12% of his team's college target share, and that's fantastic. He's going to be a great pass catching running back. But what do you need to see from those running backs that are very small? You need to see them be dynamic. You need to see them be fast. Ran a 4.65. Let's assume that he's a little bit bigger than what he weighed in at. Let's assume he's a lot bigger. You know how we gave a couple gallons of water over to our guy, Amir White. Instead, for Kyron Williams, we're not going to give him just a couple gallons of water. We're going to say, hey, man, here are 2 large pizzas. Eat those pizzas. Here are 3 gallons of water. Chug that real quick, and we're going to get you a new weight. We're going to make you so much bigger. We'll also probably give you some steroids along the way. We're going to get that BMI from 28.6 to 30. We are going to completely change his frame and not make him any slower. We're going to make him faster. I mean, God, he's getting the day. He's getting the treatment. If we look at this, move his 40-yard dash time up to a 4.60. Running backs. Oh, there's no way this is true. Let me double check this real quick. It's going to take some time. Running backs that fit those qualifications. Storm Johnson, Wayne Gallman, Matt Jones, TJ Yeldon. Yeldon had some value, but come on. What are we talking here? Next guy, Dameon Pierce. We're going to move him to a 4.55. He didn't really get used as a receiver at all. Now, this is something that's going to be concerning. I also am afraid that he's going to go outside the top 100 draft picks. If he goes outside the top 100 draft picks and we sign him that 4.55 40-yard dash, a 5% team college target share, you got Andre Williams, Dexter Williams, and Jonathan Williams. You got a bunch of Williams there, but you don't have anybody that's making a difference in the NFL. Now, I will admit, there are a couple running backs, just two that check some boxes. You have Brian Robinson, but the issue with Brian Robinson, he has his own red flag. The man's 100 years old. Like, let me pull this up right now. Now, of course, he has the excuse. He went to Alabama. He dealt with some serious competition for touches. I mean, last year, Najee Harris, before that, Damian Harris, before that, Josh Jacobs, yada, yada, yada. But the man's 23 already, and I'm recording this on April 20th. That's slightly concerning, and we can overlook that. 100% we can overlook that. I mean, if you're going to be in a situation like Najee Harris, where Najee Harris was just dominant at Alabama and checked a crap ton of boxes as well going into the NFL, and he went in the first round. Like, Najee Harris, yeah, that's one red flag. But like we always say, you can have one red flag on the profile, but when you start stacking them up over and over and over again, and we see that he's 23, see that he's not going to go round 1, not going to go round 2. His BMI is 28.8, but in our running back model, we actually have a threshold where if you get to a certain weight, then it's going to override it because Brian Robinson's 6'2", 224 pounds. He's 224 pounds. We're not worried about the man's size. So Brian Robinson is more intriguing than the other running backs on this list. And there's one running back that technically checks all the boxes, but this is why NFL draft capital is so important, because NFL draft capital will take into account what we actually have on film as well. Tyler Batty does check the boxes. He ran a 4.45. He has a BMI of 30, but I mean, he's 5'8". So that's not necessarily that fantastic. He was an elite receiving running back at Missouri. I mean, almost Rashad White levels, which is all fantastic. But the worry with Tyler Batty is he looks like he's going to go round 5. He goes round 5 in the NFL draft. Very hard to get excited about him. Overall, I don't know what we're going to do at running back in all the dynasty leagues that I'm in. I don't think we can just go out there and reach on a couple of these players in the second, third rounds. In the third round, instead, I'm going to be taking Justin Ross. I'm going to be taking Wan'Dale Robinson. I'm going to be taking John Mechie. I'm going to be taking these wide receivers that I think have a path to a pretty high ceiling. I think those wide receivers will be much better bets. I don't even know if these running backs can get on the field. Now, of course, thank you so much for being a part of the flock, checking out the channel. Please go down there, drop that like, leave a comment, subscribe if you have not done so already. And I really appreciate you, and I'll see you tomorrow.